What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and Drake is officially back, and the ICEMAN is here. But there's a catch because he's decided to drop 3 albums, not just ICEMAN, but he decided to drop 2 more, and I have a theory as to why. For those unaware, Drake is officially back, and he released his ICEMAN album, and it is an 18-track album where he's addressing a lot of the stuff that happened the past 2 years, as well as personal things happening in his life. And I'm going to break down majority of the bars of him addressing Kendrick. He addresses LeBron James, DJ Khaled, DJ Mustard, J. Cole, a bunch of people, right? And he does that mainly on the ICEMAN album, actually fully on the ICEMAN album. And he dropped 2 other albums. One of the other albums called Habibti, and the other is called Maid of Honor. And both of these albums are more like R&B, love, clubhouse music, you know, more chill vibes. So that's what you get out of those 2 albums. I'm not going to be talking about those albums. We're solely going to be breaking down ICEMAN because that's where he raps all over the whole album, and he, addresses a lot of things that's going on. First, I want to get into the theory why I think Drake dropped 3 albums, and I solely think it's because he wants to get out of his Universal Music Group contract. I believe he had 3 more albums to deliver, and he said, here, I'm going to deliver them all at once, so I'm out of this contract. That's the only reason I can think of as to why he would drop 3 albums, because he doesn't have a good relationship with them anymore after the whole Kendrick Lamar beef, so he wants to be out of there, and I think he's either going to sign to Sony or he's going to go fully independent. I think he's more going to lean towards Sony, which is unfortunate. I think Drake at that level can definitely go independent, even if he only sells 200,000 or maybe even 300,000 first week. He might have the worst first week sales of his career being independent, but he's probably one of the few artists that can actually go independent and still move units and still have people's interest. I mean, we just saw Kanye West drop Bully and do really well first week and have people's interest, and he's independent when he dropped that. So Drake can definitely do that. I encourage him to go the independent route, but hey, we'll see what happens now that he's finally out of the Universal Music Group contract. So that's why I think he dropped those 3 albums, just to get out of the contract, deliver it and be out of there. Another reason why I think Drake dropped 3 albums is because he wants to match Michael Jackson's record. So when Michael Jackson passed away, the first week of July in 2009, 3 of his albums ended up in the top 3 slots on the Billboard 200, which was the first time an artist had ever done that. However, Drake is looking to debut 3 albums in the top 3 all at once, which would be the first time an artist had ever done that. But if he accomplishes that with these 3 albums, he also matches what Michael Jackson did. He just does it in a way that nobody's ever done it. So that's the reason why I think he's dropping 3 albums as well, is to match Michael Jackson's records and break a new record that nobody's ever done. So if you're confused, basically nobody has debuted 3 albums in the top 3. Debut means the first time they've ever charted on the charts, new albums. Meanwhile, Michael Jackson did it with old albums after he passed away. So that's the difference, but essentially the same record, just one is with new albums, one is with their older catalog. Let's go over the ICEMAN album. It is 18 tracks in total. So let's start with the first track called Make Them Cry. The verse starts out with him basically reflecting on his life, of how his parents have aged and how he's hit a different stage in his life, and how he had a conversation with 40, and 40's like, hey, dig deep when it comes to what's going on in your life and what's going on with, after the battle and all that. And Drake's like, yeah, I can dig deep, but I'm trying to find a balance and peace with it. And then he mentions the situation with Kendrick Lamar. He says, with the dot back in 2024 was a big piece. So it's like, this shit is me, but it isn't me. Y'all keep on asking me what it did to me. And that's what it did to me. When I dig deep, they say dig deeper. Tell us how it felt to meet the Grim Reaper. And we know Kendrick Lamar gets called the boogeyman. So a lot of people have asked questions like, how has this affected you, Drake? Because you got to think, not like us, huge song, calling somebody, a pedophile. It's insane. It's going to affect somebody's mental one way or another. He continues, says, this album better have some big features. Well, sorry to burst your bubble, but I'm all alone for my mental. So I think he changed this up. Maybe he felt that way when he first started the album, but as you can see on the album, he has some features on there. And I've been trying to end so many people, I almost forgot the intro. Been so sure of my words that I haven't used a pencil. Been so paranoid that nothing in this world seems coincidental. Moving on in the bars, he says this then. Guys want to talk about a battle. I'm battling patience. I battle frustration. I'm about to turn 40, dog. I'm battling agent. I'm battling the fact that the album ain't even dropped, and already they ass is complaining. F it, I'll battle the label. F it, I'll battle the majors. I'll battle the stations till my ass is back in rotation. So this, from these bars, my speculation is that he's going to go independent. He's not going to sign to another label after dropping these 3 albums. So that's what I get from it. But then he says, shout out to the real fans that knew what I had in the basement. Shout out to the fake fans. I thought we had an arrangement. How many times have you tried to tell me I had a replacement? How many times you're about to ask if I had a vacation? How many artists I've had to witness do bad imitations? Guys want me all bent out of shape, rattled and shaken. My dad got cancer right now. We battle in stages. Trust me. When I say there's plenty of things I'd rather be facing for real. And this time, ask me to dig deeper. I'll gladly explain it. So a great way to start that album out, and him revealing his dad has cancer. It's unfortunate because my dad did too, and he died as well from it. So it's something hard to go through. And shout out to him for at least being open about it. And prayers up to his dad. Going on to the next track, Dust. On the chorus, he says, they was like, go blow the dust off your plaques. Go blow the dust off your plaques. What was the year they say you had slaps? Because I don't remember it going like that. He's basically making fun of artists who haven't had a recent success. And then he takes a shot at Kendrick Lamar. He basically says, what was the year that you were dominating? Because I don't remember it at all. You don't have those type of hit records that you think you do. Then on verse 2, he says, if it's up to me, I get everyone hit. I get everyone lined up. If it's up to me, I've been clocking you, pussy man. Everyone's time's up. If it's up to me, if it's up to me. If it's up to me, then you all on a list, man, everyone's signed up. If it's up to me, it's already made. I ain't making my mind up. If it wasn't for me reaching my hand, you'd never climb up. Another thing where he's just doubling down on saying, hey, I'm the guy. I'm the one that helped a lot of your guys' careers. If I didn't reach out, then you would have never climbed up to the position that you're in. So, just a little bit more bragging on this record, but he didn't really do too much disrespecting. It's one of those not really barred up records. But the next track is Whisper My Name. And in the first verse, he starts out by saying, my white label had to go white label shit when he stepped out his body and finally got hot. Basically what he's saying is Universal didn't copyright claim or copyright any of the music that content creators were reacting to when Kendrick Lamar dropped Not Like Us and all those diss tracks. But when Drake dropped his songs, they were copywriting them and striking them. And they're actually doing the same right now, even though there's reports that, hey, ICEMAN, you can stream it, blah, blah, blah. It's not looking like that. You're still going to get hit with copyright. So Drake is addressing that, saying, I had my own label at the time was making sure that Kendrick had more push from the content creators than my own music. So they were going against me. Continuing on, some people are speculating that this is not really disrespect, but it's kind of checking The Weeknd. Because Baby Boy Please, he says, I heard what you said to Lil Bro about me. Playboi Carti calls himself Baby Boy, and Playboi Carti and The Weeknd have gotten a lot closer. And Drake, in these bars, suggests that potentially Playboi Carti was talking behind his back to The Weeknd. So he says, Baby Boy, please, I heard what you said to Lil Bro about me. Yeah, and when you run into the ICEMAN, what you gonna do except freeze? You're not about to squeeze, you're not in the streets. I'm cutting guys off at the knees. They ain't on standing on business with me. Once again, we've heard bars of Drake basically saying that The Weeknd's not tough. He's an R&B guy, and he's, it's some of the people around him, but other than that, he's not that tough guy that he thinks he is. On verse 2, he also addresses the Jay-Z question that people always get asked. Would you take 500,000 or, dinner with Jay-Z? He says this, I'll take the 500K, not the dinner. I can't never learn shit from none of y'all. So more shots at Jay-Z there. Other than that, on this track, there really isn't anything else that's said. Continuing on, we go to Janice STFU, which stands for Shut the Fuck Up. On the first verse of this track, he says, hey, buried alive, someone come dig me up. If I call your shorty up right now, she picking up. You boys got big off my name, that's big enough. Of course, Rick Ross, A$AP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar, and whoever else that Drake has helped early on in their career or has made records for them, hooks, whatever. He's basically addressing all of them and saying, you guys got way too big off my name, and that's enough. And then here, he actually sends a subliminal at Jay-Z for the first time in a while, because Drake and Jay-Z have gone back and forth subliminally for quite some time. But now he's addressing Jay-Z again. He says, we know how you OGs rocking already. My guy, the jig is up. Jigga, Jay-Z. He's addressing Jay-Z because Jay-Z is the one that's seen really close to Kendrick Lamar at the Grammys and all that. And he's really supporting and pushing Kendrick Lamar throughout the whole battle. And what better timing, because Jay-Z really this year has said he's going to address a lot of things. And a lot of people are speculating that Jay-Z might actually drop an album this year. So we're probably going to get responses from Jay-Z to Drake. And who knows, there might actually be a battle that starts between this, because I don't see them setting subliminals for too long. It could start to spiral out of control like the Kendrick Lamar beef, because Drake and Kendrick were sending subliminals for a long time. Same thing with Jay-Z, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started beefing over this stuff. Then he continues on and says, they say that truth will set you free. Well, mine is going to stream while you watch in HD. They say that karma take an eternity. Yours is dropping the same night as me. Funny thing is, they ain't going to compete. You going to get yours while I'm doing me. Then on verse 2, he decides to go a little bit more at Kendrick Lamar. He says this: tired of all y'all telling me guys is real. Pussy, I know when it's real. You only come home to pose and pop off a look, but you forgot how it feel. Chi-Town popping a pill, go on a drill, looking for someone to kill. White kids listen to you because they feel some guilt, and that's how your soul gets fulfilled. He's addressing Kendrick Lamar directly here. Handing out turkeys on camera inside of your hood, then you go back to the hills. How many houses you build, how many souls did you heal off of the back of your deal? You know, with Kendrick, doing the money trees and helping the community in Compton and all that, Drake is questioning, who he is as a person. Is he actually doing that stuff? Again, we've heard this during the beef and the battle that was happening in 2024, but Drake is doubling down. And that's it for this track when it comes to subliminals. The next track, Ran to Atlanta. This is Drake and Future coming back together to make music despite everything that happened with their beef. And I believe Tony Ayo said it on his podcast, but basically Big Bank and 21 Savage made sure that they squashed the beef after all these years. And the funny thing is, the title of this track is Ran to Atlanta, which is referencing Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, where he says, you run to Atlanta when you need a whatever bag or whatever the fuck he says on the record, I forget. But yeah, he's basically referring to that Not Like Us verse where he's talking about Drake running to Atlanta to get hits and money. On verse 2, Drake says, me and Hendrix back by popular demand. Then he continues, says, I'm quick to turn a hater into a fan. Guys standing 10 toes on quicksand. If they could have been, they would have been, but they can't. So then he continues on and says, know what I'm saying? Outsiders back to what it was. You know what I'm saying? Atlanta, tell you about my run. Ask Pluto Bank 21. Basically confirming that Bank and 21 Savage ended the beef between Future and Drake. And basically Drake throughout the record is flexing that, hey, I still have Atlanta supporting me regardless of the stuff that Kendrick Lamar said. And yes, he can still collaborate with people in Atlanta and they'll still, embrace him with open arms. Then on the next track, Shebang, which is track number 6, he addresses a little bit of A$AP Rocky and says here, where's the beef? It's cooked. Where's the boy? He's booked. Am I upset a bit? Last one you dropped was shit. I did press play on that hoe, mid, skip. Now, he could be obviously disrespecting Kendrick Lamar's GNX, A$AP Rocky's album, J. Cole's album, whoever that he has issues with. And then he says, what should I take a trip? Who should I take his bitch? Obviously, he's going at, A$AP Rocky with Rihanna and all that stuff. Continuing on, though, he doesn't really say much on here. On the next verse, he says, secrets I know you got you stressed. Will I take those to my death? Haven't decided just yet. So here, this is the Drake red button thing where Drake's always kind of threatened to reveal a lot of information about people, but never really did it. It happened with the Pusha T situation where he was supposed to respond with a diss track, revealing a bunch of information about Pusha T and stuff, and just never really did it because apparently Jay Prince stepped in to stop it because it would have ruined people's families and stuff like that. But yeah, so he's basically doubling down on that and saying, hey, I got secrets. Should I let them go? The next track is track number 7, Make Them Pay. In this first verse, he flexes that he can perform in Los Angeles and pull a crowd of 1 million people. He says, and I faced the way they paint me, but it hurts just like the Philly Eagles. LA love the sound. I could play a show for 1 million people. Don't be surprised you see the whole Young Money in CA, just like the Village People. Now, this is funny because YMCA is, an actual, I don't know what the fuck it is. It's like an organization, a place to, hang out and stuff. But he actually, does wordplay by saying YM Young Money, California, CA. So really cool on that. These guys measuring their dick size in millimeters. I rack up a tab in Chanel because I do buy everything like I'm Middle Eastern. And then he mentions the Not Like Us, pop out show, as well as the Not Like Us music video where he says, I'm trying to catch one of you boys stargazing in the field like little leaguers. And ain't no passes for you crip walking, all of that diss talking, kiddo, beat it. I'm supposed to be my brother's keeper, so don't make us hit another buzzer beater. Talking that tough talk and addressing all those people that were crip walking and dancing when it came to the Not Like Us track. And then he addresses Jay-Z again. He says, my guys run a phone as soon as you check into prison. You guys run and talk to Hove for a second opinion. Hove being Jay-Z. Me, I stood 10 T's and accepted the mission because I'd much rather death than submission. How can you press the ignition and let some memories of the past affect your decision? So here he's, I think, addressing J. Cole. He's saying basically J. Cole pulled the trigger on trying to beef with Kendrick, and then once he dropped that 7-minute drill track, he pulled back. And Drake's saying, listen, if I'm going to go, battle, I'm going full on battling. I'm not going to retract anything. And then he continues, and I think here he addresses more of J. Cole. He says, I love you because of the history, but if we being real, I could never forgive you, and you never called me back, but destiny's written for real. There are rumors that, when J. Cole backed out of the battle, that Drake and J. Cole stopped talking to each other, no longer cool. And here he's addressing that. And then he continues, says, fuck a big three anyway. There was too many chefs in the kitchen. It was a mess to begin with. Yeah. So he addresses the whole big three, big me, all that stuff. And now they got a new GOAT and we got to test the position. Damn, who is this guy for real? I guess a magician. And here he goes at Kendrick. He says, 100 million streams vanished. No one got questions for guys. Well, maybe I'm best as the villain because I got real numbers on guys who say they got billions. Now, if you don't remember, Spotify did a lot of cleaning with bots and streams. And Kendrick Lamar was the one that took a lot of hits on that bots and streams that got removed. He says, I got all the chains that they ever repped in Virginia. I got guys as prized possessions. I get possessive on guys. Here, he's, of course, clowning Pusha T, as well as the Clips and Pharrell Williams in general. I'm pressing everything. I'll get impressive on guys. I got problems with people who I would have never dreamed, and that's dragging people in who don't want to get in between. Dog, I was Aiden Ross with streams before Aiden and Ross had ever streamed. Now, this is a great wordplay because he's talking about Aiden Ross, the streamer, but then he also says aiding Rick Ross, the rapper, meaning I was helping this guy get streams on his music before Aiden Ross, the actual streamer, was streaming. So great wordplay there. And then he addresses DJ Khaled. And I think Drake's issue with DJ Khaled is that Khaled never stepped in to basically pick a side or at least say something about the beef. So Drake didn't like that. He said, and Khaled, you know what I mean. The beef was fully live. You went halal and got on your deen. And your people are still waiting for a free Palestine, but apparently everything is in black and white and red and green. Damn, I'm seeing everyone's true colors for real. I'm sensing a theme. DJ Khaled is Palestinian, never spoke up about what's going on with Palestine and Israel, so Drake calls that out. Continuing on, he says, I'm greater than everybody like some shredded cheese. I was in Hazleton at the one before I was in the loop like a set of keys. So yeah, a bunch of bars going on about other things, but yeah, just in this verse, he addressed, Jay-Z to a certain extent, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Khaled, Rick Ross. So loaded bars there for this track. So that's it for Make Them Pay. The next track is Burning Bridges, and on the hook, Drake says you're getting bodied by a singing guy, which is a reference to the back-to-back record. And it says your baby mama ain't even post her single. Damn, where's she at? Yeah, where's she at? Your baby mama ain't even post her single. He could be referring to A$AP Rocky because Rihanna hasn't really, supported his music like that. She has shared some things here and there, but not to that extent. Or he could be addressing Kendrick Lamar. Obviously, his baby mama never posted anything of Kendrick Lamar's online. So that's what I'm assuming he's referring to. In the verse of the track, he says, you saw my brother, you was trying to fix it, now you drop your album and you back dissing. This could be a reference to A$AP Rocky because he was talking to academics and potentially there could have been something where it could have been fixed. But obviously the drop that he dropped his album Don't Be Dumb, and then he was dissing Drake all over it. So that's it for this track on Burning Bridges. The next track, National Treasures, leaked online a while ago, so I'm not really going to go over the bars. Basically, Capo and Lito, habits together, whatever. It's a fire track. It starts out, but I don't like the second portion where it just changes. But let's go over the verse on the second portion because this is all new. So, boy, got to dip out the 6, run out the 6 just like you did. I think here he's talking about Kendrick Lamar, where he did his tour on June 12th and June 13th in Toronto. And it was reported that Kendrick was receiving an escort to the airport to fly to New York to spend the night there before the next tour date. Drake states that Kendrick left the city as soon as possible and couldn't spend the night because he was fearful of tension boiling over a hostile situation. So here he's kind of calling out Kendrick for, yeah, you performed in my city, but you dipped immediately. You didn't even stay. So why was TPS at my crib until you boys slid? Basically, he's saying, why was the Toronto Police Department at my house when you were performing? Was it because you were scared we're going to do something? Basically calling him out. And the rest of the verse is just him, talking his talk about him being the mob boss that he is. So nothing really directed at anyone when it comes to the rest of the National Treasure second verse. On the next track, Bees on the Table, which features 21 Savage, I feel like in Drake's verse, which is verse 2, he's basically checking to see if Kendrick is actually going to respond to him with all these little subliminals that he's doing. This is how I feel about it. He says, spent months in the corner, just me and my back. I'm used to this. I'm numb to that. I know I just got to adapt. Let's wait on your Spotify Wrapped. The messages you about to send on the 16th, which is a day after his album's release, please don't hit send on none of that. There's no need to check where the temperature is at. You know what it is if you double back. So he's basically, I think, taunting Kendrick. Should have put another blade in my back. Should have stood over and double tapped. Hey, what y'all need, a duffel bag? What is that offer they said? Why? What did they put on the table? What does that say on that paper? F that. They got to double that, triple that. Fuck is the bitches at? Yeah, the Chef 2 Michelin. Come to the 6. We dipping you boys like christening. Kevin Hart liquor. He shook. I'm going to put you in some sticky predicaments. Killy might come take a trick off a pussy like they was transitioning. I'm fighting the man, not suing the rapper. You boys is not listening. So there you go, addressing the UMG lawsuit, saying that you guys got all twisted up. I'm fighting the man, Lucien, the label, and not Kendrick Lamar, the rapper, of his diss track. Your boy a fisherman, that's just one word in the industry. Don't mean to be in y'all business. I'm talking spicy, hot, sizzling. Don't stick around if you visited. So yeah, more of taunting to Kendrick Lamar, I think, and saying that, where's your temperature at, or you do want to double this back, basically, and then addressing the UMG lawsuit as well, saying that I'm not going at Kendrick. I'm going against the label. That's where I'm at, and you guys aren't even paying attention to that. On the track Plot Twist, which is track number 12, really, he's just talking about the people surrounding him and how they're down and trained and ready to go if anything serious happens when it comes to any type of issues that Drake has. Basically, his goons. That's what he's addressed on the whole track. On this track, Too Hard for the Radio, what's interesting is verse 2. He addresses Mustard, Pusha T, and Jay-Z. So let's go over the verse 2. He says this: Mustard heard about us, gotta catch up to the slaps. You ain't had one since me and YG rapped, which is talking about Who Do You Love and those records that Mustard produced with YG and Drake, which is essentially true, until the Kendrick Lamar Not Like Us came. And he says, facts, $900 million for the tracks. Rack City, bitch, we remember that, which is the Tygo Rack City record. That was huge and must have produced that. Damn, you should try and get back to that. This new shit, you could have kept it on the laugh. Fact. Basically making fun of this guy's music, saying it ain't nothing. And this is interesting. So then he says this: damn, y'all was really island hopping back then. Huh. Now y'all names got redacted. Yeah, now a guy got a fact check. What? Here he's referring to Pusha T and Jay-Z's name being on the Epstein Island document files and being accused of having to do stuff with Epstein, which is obviously Jay-Z and Pusha T are the only ones that were mainly mentioned when it came to that stuff. So he's calling that out and saying, you guys are island hopping. Now your names are redacted from all kinds of documents because you guys were doing crazy stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see how Pusha T and Jay-Z respond to that. But that's it for that record. The next track, Make Them Remember, was actually leaked online as 1 a.m. in Albany. So it turns out it's not a timestamp record at all. It's actually called Make Them Remember. And on this track, he addresses LeBron James, Kendrick Lamar again, and a few other people. So let's go over this. He says, my social battery is drained for real, just came from hearing a lot of guys cop a lot of pleas. Like, oh, brother, you know, we brothers, it's never been nothing. So he's basically saying a lot of people have shifted and tried to become his friend again after the whole beef, despite siding with Kendrick Lamar. And he's basically calling BS out on that. On the verse, he says, they say conclusions were drawn, but I'm in super denial. What is a loss? I'll be damned if I'm losing it now. I'm the golden goose shaking things up at Lucian's house. So he sends some direct shots at Lucian, who obviously is the CEO of Universal Music Group. I'm in the battlefield, really putting boots to the ground, a booster seat for yourselves and the lies that you tell. The booster seat is obviously making fun of Kendrick Lamar for being short. This is interesting, though. This bar is interesting. He says, if Drake took out the AK, maybe he'd be in jail just based off the name that it spells. Why they say they just smelled. I heard they got special places in hell for guys joking about evil when they did it themselves. Damn. Here he is dissing Dr. Dre because Dr. Dre has been really close to Kendrick Lamar and obviously supporting him and being one of the few people that was really, really close to Kendrick and clapping when he got the Grammy Awards and showing up at the pop out and all that. And Drake says, if Drake took out the AK, and this is a play on words, because if you take the AK out of Drake, it spells out Dre. And then he says he'd go to jail basically trying to kill people. But he says, for guys joking about evil when they did it themselves, referring to Dr. Dre and his abuse allegations and the stuff that he's admitted to doing back in the 90s, putting his hands on females. So he's saying basically these guys are laughing about stuff that isn't even real, but they themselves have done bad things that is actually real. And of course, we know throughout the battle, Drake accused Kendrick Lamar of being an abuser to his wife. Continuing on, he says, what y'all thought I was done, y'all forgot what I done. Y'all forgot about Drake, y'all forgot where I'm from. Y'all forgot if I gave you a hand, you under the thumb. Convenient amnesia from all you ballerinas. It doesn't alter what you said or how it made us see you. It shouldn't be shocked to see you in that arena because you always made your career off of switching teams. Here he is dissing LeBron James because LeBron was there at the pop out, I think it's called. And, he was having fun there. And Drake is saying, no surprise here. You change teams all the time. And then he says, I never got a copy of the newest rules. Apparently the title of the book is called Fooling Fools. Y'all was riding all summer, pedal bars going #1. And yet y'all trying to tell me who's grooming who. Then he continues and goes to LeBron more. He says, please stop asking me about what's going on with 23 and me. LeBron James wears the 23 number for his jersey. He says, I'm a real guy and he's not. It's in my DNA. I could have fell back like the married rapper, but we engaged. I told y'all I'm settled in my evil ways. Here he's, going at J. Cole again, basically saying the married rapper is J. Cole, obviously. And, J. Cole fell back from the beef and he's saying I could have done the same thing, but I'm engaged in his evil ways of what he's doing. So he says these guys thinking that the spot is up for grabs. They'll never see the day. To be the #1, you got to lead the way. Here he goes at Kendrick again. He says, and to hold something over my head forever, you're still a couple feet away. Your insecurities keep spanning season to season like you Issa Rae. Plot twist, the owl never sees the cage. The owl only wakes up to seize the day. Here he's referring to the Kendrick Lamar Not Like Us video where the owl's in the cage. Talking about hiding the Bible, maybe I should read a page. Iced out crosses on the necks thinking Jesus saves. Well, even if he does, guy, either way, the blasphemy you talk, let him know that your amazing grace going to be delayed. You guys should be ashamed. The fact that you had these talks to get decent plays, goodness grace. Going at Kendrick some more, basically saying he's living this double life. He puts this image on like he's this great guy and great person, but behind the scenes, he's a terrible person. God want to wipe that little smug look off your fucking face. All you really did was cap like uppercase. Of course, talking about the Not Like Us song and lying about him being a pedophile. In these next bars, he goes at Joe Budden. This is some pretty funny bars towards the end especially. He says, I watched the scout spaz him with a puzzled face. Who knows which one of his bubble-shaped tings I must have ushered through the double gates. He's talking about Joe Budden and the various women he's been with. So he's saying, who knows which female I was with that upset Joe Budden. He said, showed her the time of her life while broski having stomach aches, hearing about good times at Lover's Lake, and send her back to you while you sleep and walking naked in another state, which is hilarious because Joe Budden was having sleeping problems and walking randomly. Basically I have sleepwalking throughout the whole, for a while he's actually was dealing with that. You'll live to see another day. Even if you don't, it's just another day. We ain't crying for your punk ass anyway. Basically saying that if something happens to Joe Budden, nobody really cares. Life's going to move on, which is diabolical, man, especially the sleepwalking naked thing. It's kind of hilarious, actually. Then towards the end, he says, and Muggsy Bugs dunked for once. Even I'm a bit amazed. So if you don't know this Muggsy guy, he's a 5'3" basketball player. And if he were to dunk, it would be the craziest thing ever because somebody at 5'3" dunking is insane. Here he's basically saying that Kendrick Lamar is, because Kendrick Lamar is shorter, he's referring to Muggsy as Kendrick Lamar and saying that, yeah, Kendrick Lamar got the dunk, but it's such a rare thing that even it amazed me. Basically saying that Not Like Us record is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing that he got, and he can't repeat that success. And to be fair, that's probably his biggest record of his whole career. He has Humble and those other records on Damn, but Not Like Us went to Diamond so quick, it was astronomical. So he's basically saying even that amazed me that he managed to do that. But that doesn't mean that he's better than me just because he had this one moment where he just happened to just strike gold is basically what he's saying. Then he continues, says, yeah, someone give the kid a raise. What is it? The braids, even when I cut them, I could never fade. I mean, it's Drizzy Drake. Basically responding to, obviously, Kendrick Lamar saying, what is it, the braids? On the Euphoria diss track. He says, even if I were to cut them, nobody's going to fade me, making, reference to fade when you're getting a haircut. But yeah, that is the whole Make Them Remember track, addressing, obviously, Joe Budden, LeBron James, Kendrick Lamar, so on and so forth. And on the rest of the tracks of Iceman, Drake basically just, doubles down and says he's the best, calls out, people with fake streams, talks about his homies and, how gangster they are, so on and so forth. A lot of it is repeated, but those bars that are broke down are really the main ones where he's addressing specific people. The rest are just, quick bars, quick jabs here and there that is repeating throughout the album. But that's the full breakdown for Iceman. Let me know what you guys think of this album. What do you guys think of all three of the Drake albums? Are you guys a fan of them? Do you guys think it's a smart move for Drake to drop 3 projects? And will he get that record of having the 1, 2, and 3 slot for all 3 of these albums? Who knows? But let me know what you guys think.